Yes guys, so I haven't made a video in a while, so here's just a quick update on the progress of the E46.
I've been spending quite some time working on this BMW E46 that I recently purchased, stripping the engine down, cleaning the parts, checking it out, seeing what needs to be done, what needs to be bought and replaced. But as I was getting ready to get the valves out, to get the valve seats grinded, I noticed a little problem that will give me major issues after I fitted the head. If you look at the head as it sits now, you don't actually see a lot of problems besides the scrapes and scratches that I've burnt into it by cleaning it. But as we move closer to the combustion chambers next to the valve, you can clearly see a very deep crack in that cylinder head. That crack is right in between a water jacket and the combustion chamber, and it seems as if the crack goes straight through the valve seat.
So there's two ways of negating this problem. We can either weld up the crack or source another cylinder head. So this is a replacement cylinder head. Unfortunately, it's a bust. So the head has been machined so far that it's machined the tip of the valve as well. So I can't use it. So this forces me to stop the work on the E46 and divert my attention to another car. So this is my 95 Opel Corsa Lite 130i, but it's losing power intermittently. So after taking off the cylinder head and just checking it out, I had a semi-new cylinder head gasket on, but this was my main issue. Deep grooves in the cylinder liners and the pistons are totally worn. So I have to rebore 20 thousandths of an inch with brand new piston rings. So after completely stripping the Corsa engine, removing it from the body, I found that I also need the crank done. The crank is worn and needs to be machined down on all journals 10 thousandths of an inch, getting brand new bearings for big ends and mains. And this engine bay also needs a cleanup and a respray done. I also have a lot of rust coming in and a crack inside the radiator support, so I need to sort that out as well, welding it up. The exhaust also needs an exhaust flange which was removed by previous owner. I've got a good release bearing and good pressure plate, only the clutch plate needs to be replaced. And then finally I just need to buy a complete gasket set to start assembling this engine. So this is the refinished crank, ready to install. The engine block was rebored, first oversized, and it needs a spray paint. And here we have the new pistons ready for fitment. I just need to set up the rings. First though, we just need to give these engine parts a little bit of a cleanup. I'm using an aggressive degreaser with a soft brush. I need to also clean the oil pan, removing all dirt and grime, and then also need to give it a spray paint with high heat spray. It's important to remove all the old silicone so that the fresh new silicone in some gasket can have a good tight seal. We clean up the oil pump and also some of the bolts. And then we can start assembly of the engine. We first remove the bearing bolts so we can fit the crank. With the thrust bearing installed, we can fit all the other main bearings, bearing in mind that we need to clean and lubricate all components where the white metal bushings go onto. So with all the bearings installed, we can proceed, clean up and lubricate the crank. With the crank set down, we put on the main bearing caps and give it a little screw in. I have a tendency to feel if the crank is free even if it's not torqued down. Then we lubricate the big end bearing journals, getting ready for installation of the pistons. So I'm not going to go through putting on the piston rings onto the pistons, but that's what I'm doing right here. That's one of the compression rings fitting. So we fitted all piston rings onto all 4 pistons, and we have a complete set ready to install into the engine. Installing pistons from the side is not really ideal, as I found out here. So I popped the motor down and installed it the normal way. Perfect. With all big end and main bearing caps installed, we just hand tighten it, just giving the bolts a light tap with a hammer just to free it up so that it can be properly hand tightened as far as it can go. Lots of lubrication was used in the process to prevent damage, and then we just place everything together in one spot, putting the sump on top of everything so that we're ready for the next step of the assembly. Here we have the engine bay, which has been sanded down and all the rust removed. Paint has been scuffed so the new paint can stick to it, and use the flap disc to remove all the major rust. Radiator support has been welded, sanded and flap disc as well, but it will need to be replaced. So this is after I've sprayed the engine bay. You can see all the necessary areas that have been masked off. The radiator support has been given a few coats, about 3 coats. I've also sprayed the inside panels and the front where the bonnet latches to. With everything looking fresh and uniform, I also cleaned up the overflow bottle, used some dishwashing liquid on that. I got a lot of overspray on the wiring harness, but as the covers are so old, I'm gonna refresh that with some electrical insulation tape. I fitted the headlight wiring harness and just strapped it down with some cable ties, as I don't have the original clamps. So the engine bay is ready for fitment of the engine. I need to replace a few cables and also repair some of the wiring harness. I also got some color on the inside fender wells that's sitting on the inside of the engine bay, so that also looks uniform and gives the engine bay a lot tidier look. So I'm just finishing off this engine, screwing in the oil pickup that leads into the oil pan. All the bearing bolts have been torqued down, the main bearings and the big end bearings to the required torque settings. The oil pump has been cleaned up, receiving a new crank in seal and also oil pump gasket. And this is the complete short block with a new sump gasket. I just need to give all these parts a little spray. Timing pulley needs to be torqued down, and I'm just waiting on the clutch plate to arrive. And that's a top view of it. Nice, neat, tidy. So I've damaged the water pump flange while I'm gently tapping it in after it came out of the freezer. And that's the motor in. It took me and 2 buddies of mine, actually my brother and 1 buddy, just to get that motor in. It took a little while, and got the engine sprayed as well. There you can see the yellow insulation tape just for a bit of accent on the electrical side. I also scuffed down the starter motor, had a bit of rust on it and gave it a little bit of a spray. And there's the top just sat on the short block. This is after I just connected all the hoses and wiring. The one wire leads to the knock sensor. I need to replace that knock sensor. And this is about what it looks like after all the parts have been hand tightened down. I need to fit the water pump and still do the timing. Here I'm just twisting the water pump so that the timing belt adjuster can hit its mark. and that is after tightening the head and fitting the belt. I already tightened the crank bolt, just some loose odds and ends that I need to tighten up and bolt down. I still need to work on the body of this car, as there's a lot of rust and odd ends that I need to fix up. Where you see the golden spray dots, that's where I need to fix. There's also a nasty little piece of rust there. The boot lid has a couple of rust spots. That window needs to come out. I had a nice little battle with this back wheel here, and had a puncture in it, and there you can see the plug. These wheels actually come off my Opel Astra, quite decent rims. Front tires are actually in good condition, just the rears that I need to replace. As you can see, I still need to connect up the cooling system as the hoses aren't fitted, but the rest of the engine is sorted. It swings. Just a couple of odd bits that needs to be replaced, which I'll show you in a moment. So the exhaust manifold needs a flange and a downpipe. It's completely rusted through. As you can see here, I broke it off before I tried to remove the engine. There you can also see the sump has been sprayed. I have some high heat on that. I need to replace the fuel line. As you can see, that little black section there, that's another pipe just stuck into it, so I can get some fuel into the engine. And then the back brakes are just a little bit stiff, but that will be sorted as soon as the car is driving. So this will be the first proper start for this Corsa. Check it out. No mess, no fuss, just starts. A little noisy because of the exhaust, but that will be fixed. So that's the Corsa, guys, starting, running under its own power. Next video, I will be welding the exhaust. I will be unbinding those back wheels, and I will also be fitting a radio in it. That will be a quick video. On the BMW side, I need about 15 grand just to get that cylinder head sorted due to the crack, and that other cylinder head being a cheap cylinder head that I sourced. That cylinder head would be good for probably a drift car or something like that, but I'm not into drifting, so I'll be looking for a better decent quality cylinder head as soon as I get the cash. I need about 7,000 rand for the cylinder head, another 2,000 rand for the cylinder head gasket, and then there's also the question of the head bolts. I need quite a couple of head bolts, and they're about 250 each, so that's another 2,000 bucks in there. And then I also need to do the water pump before that car can be running. And I also need to replace a couple of the cooling pumps. That's about 500 bucks a piece, so I need quite a bit of money to get that cylinder head up and get that car running. So I'm taking my time with the BMW. Yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode. Join me again on the next episode where I will be continuing with the Corsa. Sorry for not making a BMW video, but that will come in due time, in good time. That car will be running, and I want that thing perfect because that will be my daily driver. That is going to be the car that I'm going to keep till whenever I die, or the car gets totally written off, crumbled up, burned out, sliced in half. I don't know. If I can fix it, I'll fix it again. Peace, guys. Enjoy.